This one has been a long time coming. Oh my gosh, words cannot describe how excited I am to finally have my hands on the 72 set of Derwent Drawing Pencils. Holy guacamole, this has been a long road. But I finally have them, and we're going to be taking a look at them today. I don't know how much of a review this will be because you all know that I love these pencils. I have worked with their original 24 colors for years and years and years, and I often use their Chinese white in pretty much every colored pencil piece that I do. So it's no secret that I already love the formulation of these pencils, but we're going to take a look at this set and the new colors, and we're going to talk about some lightfastness and things like that. And of course, I am going to try them out and do a piece with them. So let's just jump into it. Okay, so let's take a look at this long-awaited set. I have here the full 72 set. I'm so excited. It has the typical Derwent branded tin with the blue and their logo, and it has artwork on it by Jess Pritchard, or Pritchard, I don't know how that's pronounced. Very beautiful. And as you can tell, the typical earthy, muted tones that the Derwent drawing line is known for. Look at this. Oh, I love it. There are 2 trays here, and you can see all the different colors. I am so excited that they expanded this line. Okay, taking a look at the pencil, very typical Derwent branding here, and it has one end painted to look like the core of the pencil. They come pre-sharpened, nice and thick like most of Derwent's pencils, feels very high quality. I just swatched them in my sketchbook. There's a few things that I noticed that I found a little bit interesting color-wise. One of the things that we all know and loved about the original Derwent drawing line is that all the colors were highly light fast. And that's not necessarily the case this time, and that was a little bit disappointing. There are 5 pencils out of this set that are rated only 5 stars, which isn't horrible, but it's not the light fastness that this line is known for. And the most disappointing of those colors being the smoke blue, because that in the original set was rated an 8. So it was originally rated an excellent light fastness, and now it is not. So that part I was a little bit iffy about. However, there's an ash blue here that looks almost identical when swatched out, and that one is rated a 6. So if you don't like the 5 rating on the smoke blue, just change to ash blue and you'll be just fine. So the majority of the pencils in this set are rated 6 and above, and according to the Derwent color chart, 6 and above is up to 100 years light fastness in museum conditions. And so the majority of the set is very, very light fast. But there are a lot of similar colors here. So again, you can use the ash blue if you're not feeling the 5 on the smoke blue. And there's like some of these earthy tones that are really close. Like you got Venetian red, ruby earth, burnt rose. Those are kind of close to each other. These 2 grays, fossil gray and taupe, very close to each other. But it's really weird because again, taupe is only a 6. Fossil gray is rated a 7. Very strange how they went about this. And then one of the other things that I thought was kind of odd is some of the color names. Now, royal blue, I wouldn't have necessarily named that a royal blue. We're mostly earth tones here, so it's hard to get a nice, rich royal blue. But when I think royal blue, I think a nice, strong, rich blue color. But obviously, I mean, that's not terrible. Teal blue, on the other hand, what the heck is that? That does not look like teal to me in any way, shape, or form. To me, that is more of like a periwinkle blue or something. I don't know. It's definitely more of a gray blue. It doesn't scream teal to me. But, you know, rock on with your bad self, Derwent. As long as the colors work fine, the color names really don't matter. I just thought it was kind of odd. Now, I mentioned some of the colors I was excited about in this set. I was really excited about that grape. But of course, that's also only rated a 5. And most of the things that are rated just a 5 light fastness rating are what you would expect. They're like the reddish colors, like this deep red here, and autumn leaf, which is such a beautiful color, so that's kind of a bummer. and rust. And of course, these pencils are still great to work with. It's just not something that I'm going to personally use in work that I plan to sell, but I'll still use them in the sketchbook and things like that. But I just thought you might want to be aware of that. The woodland and dark brown are also very similar. There's a lot of similar colors here, and I think that part of that is because they were trying to go along with their earth tone color scheme that the Derwent Drawing line is known for. And so it's kind of to be expected. And if they were trying to keep things as light fast as possible, notice there are no actual fugitive colors here. You're going to be using a lot of those natural pigments to begin with. And that does give you a little bit more of a muted, limited color scheme. So I'm not surprised to see some of these colors being very close to each other. It's kind of a bummer when you're paying to have all these extra colors and some of them are pretty much the same. But if you fall in love with one of those colors, you already automatically have a backup. And so that's kind of how I look at it. Now, I am going to do a piece of artwork with these. I found a reference photo that my husband took of a really sweet cardinal nest that we have in our holly bush out in our backyard, and I think that's going to be perfect for these beautiful earth tones, and I'm going to see how well they work. I'm sure they're going to work just fine. When I swatched them, they felt very similar to the originals. I don't think that they've changed the formulation, at least as far as I can tell just from swatching, and I love this formulation. I just think it's beautiful. They feel very clay-like. They have a texture that no other pencil has. This has always been one of my top favorite pencils of all time. So I'm really, really excited to jump into this set and see what I can come up with these new colors included. Okay, so like most of my pieces, I am going to be starting off in the background. I am looking for these fun little abstract shapes that make up the organic matter that can be found around the nest in the bush that it's in. There's a lot of little shapes here, so I'm just taking it small shape by small shape and then refining as I go along. So one thing that I noticed with a couple of my pencils, there was actually a couple quality control issues I wanted to mention to you. My wheat pencil actually has a split towards the top in the wood, and then this pencil has a little chip taken out of it, my ink blue. I thought that that was kind of unusual for Derwent. I'm going to keep an eye on it, because splits in the wood can cause issues with breakage down the line, especially while sharpening. I didn't have to sharpen these pencils a whole lot during the process of this piece, so I didn't run into any breakage with any of these pencils, but it's something that I'm going to kind of keep my eye on. And it's not something that I've seen a lot with Derwent products, but I know that this product had high demand and Derwent had a hard time keeping store shelves full, so I don't know if there was a little bit of a rush to get some of these pencils out. As I mentioned, these were on back order for months for me. And so I have a feeling that has something to do with it. Again, it didn't cause any issues while I was doing this piece, but it is something that I am going to keep an eye out on, and I just wanted you to be aware if you are getting ready to buy this set or buy some of these new pencils. So, as I mentioned, I am working on the abstract shapes in the background, and because Derwent pencils, especially the Derwent drawing, they're a little bit on like the softer side and they are thicker, it's a little bit more troublesome to get into the grooves of the paper sometimes, even with the sharpest points. However, I will be blending these out later on, so things look a little bit rough right now. I'm not looking for perfection. I just want to get to know some of these colors. As I mentioned when I was talking about my swatches, I didn't feel much of a difference when working with these as I do when working with the old ones. And in fact, I actually used some of the old ones and the new ones together. I feel like these pencils are softer when they are fresh out of the package than they are when they're a little bit older. And that's just in general, even from before. But generally speaking, working together, I didn't feel a difference. However, I could tell the difference because they changed their font a little bit. The top one is the new one. The writing is a little bit shorter and spread out a little bit further. And it also says made in England instead of just saying England on the end. So it's got more of a like modern font. So it's an easy way to tell the difference. And then I have a couple of the colors here side by side from the old and the new. I have the sanguine. And you can tell that the new looked a little bit darker and the old looked a little bit more orangey, but I don't really notice a huge difference in formulation other than that. Also, one of the things that I wanted to address when it comes to the light fastness that I was speaking about earlier is sometimes pigments become less available than they used to be. So companies have to change the pigments that they're using. Like, I don't think that the original Lightfast rating on the original Smoke Blue was inaccurate. I think that possibly the pigments that they were using for that pencil are no longer available. And so they may have had to switch it out for a different pigment that is close to it. And that might be why the Lightfastness changed. And so that might also account for some of the other colors looking a little different as well. I don't necessarily feel like they set out to, change the colors or the formulation. Although with there being similar colors and them having to come up with more colors, maybe they did change things a little bit here and there so that they could differentiate the different shades a little bit more. But that's just a theory of mine from working with these. That's, I don't have any word from Derwent on that or anything like that. These are just theories of mine as to why we might see some of these things happening. But overall, I didn't really notice a huge difference between these and the old ones. I have some that are about 2 years old, and then I have some that are over a decade old. The ones that are over a decade old, they get a little bit stiffer over time after being exposed to air. I have mine in pencil drawers, like in wooden pencil drawers. And so anytime you're dealing with a wax or oil-based product, you're going to start to get a little bit of a film over the core of it while it's being exposed to air. But then once you start working, that film goes away and they come right back to life. And these aren't a huge issue with these, but it is something that happens with most pencils as it is. So the older ones feel a little bit stiffer when I first pulled them out of my drawers to work with them compared with the brand new ones. But I think that's to be expected because when they're brand new, fresh out of the package, they're going to be nice and soft and workable because they haven't been exposed to air as long. And so that's something that I did notice a little bit while swatching and a little bit when I was first working with these. But as I worked with them back and forth between the old and new in this piece in various parts, I did notice my old one softened up a little bit more. And then by the end of it, while I was just working with them alongside each other, they felt exactly the same. So if you are worried that these pencils were not going to be up to snuff compared with the old ones, I didn't notice a huge difference. I think they're just as beautiful as the old ones. If anything, the old ones were a little bit stiffer at first, but then once I was working with them, they got back into the groove of things and they all worked beautifully together. So I didn't notice a huge formulation change. If anything, maybe a little bit of an improvement, but again, I think that's really because they're just fresh out of the package. They all work beautifully together. And as I mentioned, there were a couple of things that the color may have changed. They may have even gotten a little bit richer. Hey, no hate there. That's very exciting. And so they are as beautiful as they always have been. No disappointments here whatsoever when it comes to the working properties of these. The only bummer that I said in the beginning was, a little bit of the Lightfastness, but again, 5 is not a horrible Lightfastness. And then there's a lot of colors that are very close to being duplicate colors. And so that can be kind of a bummer for some people. So my suggestion is look at all the different colors and maybe buy some open stock. Do I think you have to have the 72 set? Unless you're a kooky colored pencil collector like me. You don't necessarily have to get the full set. I say, look at the type of artwork you do, look at the kind of colors that you were specifically wishing that they had made, and then go online and look at them open stock and see which colors you want to add to your collection. If you're worried about getting colors that are too duplicate, and if the colors that are close to being duplicate aren't colors you really use a lot of, then maybe going open stock might be the best solution for you. And so that's my biggest suggestion there, because there are some duplicate colors here that it'll take me a lifetime to use up. They're so close in color and they may not be colors that I necessarily use a ton of. So I'm stocked up for a long time. I was already stocked up because I had a bunch of these pencils to begin with. And then I have the duplicates that are literal duplicates because they're in this set and they're in the other sets that I already have. But then I also have some colors here that are very close to colors that I already had to begin with that are technically new colors. And so some colors I'm going to be fine on for the rest of my life. And so that's my suggestion to you. If you don't have the money to spring for the full set and you were only looking for certain colors in the expanded line, definitely go for the open stock. Now I want to talk a little bit more about some of the colors I'm really excited about. I really am excited about some of these darks that they came out with in this set. Most specifically, I am really excited about the forest color. This was one of my all-time favorite colors from the Derwent Lightfast line, and I am super stoked they came out with it in this line because I love a nice soft pencil and I love a nice deep dark green. You all know me, I'm a landscape girly, and I use the forest pencil from the Lightfast line in a ton of my artwork. It is so dark that it nears black, but it has this nice green tint to it, obviously. It's technically a green. And so it adds a nice dynamic dark to certain landscape and natural elements. And so I'm stoked that they added that to this line. Another one is Midnight. It's like this deep, deep dark blue. And those are both highly Lightfast colors. I was super stoked about that. Again, I'm in love with the grape color, that deep dark purple. That one's only a 5 in the Lightfastness, but again, 5 isn't terrible. I'll definitely be using it for some applications. And they had some brighter greens that I was excited about too. I'm really excited about the moss green and the fresh green. Those were really beautiful colors. Love those beautiful greens. I'm a green girl. I love my naturals. And then I thought that the polar ice color was really pretty as well. It's a nice blue color that wasn't present in the originals. So these things are kind of fun little elements that you don't necessarily see in the original line. I think they're great additions. So I'm really excited about those colors, especially in the dark areas. I do love some of the new red colors as well. Strawberry is a winner. I believe they have that in their Lightfast line as well. It sounds familiar to me. I don't have my color chart for the Lightfast pencils here as I'm doing this voiceover, so I can't compare, but I feel like they do, and that's a beautiful one, and that's actually a 7. That's a great Lightfastness for a red color. So I'm looking forward to using that in some of my other artwork as well. But yeah, so those are the colors that I definitely recommend if you're looking for something a little different that they didn't have in the original line, that is like kind of like way different from the original line, and you just want to do some open stock colors. I definitely recommend those. I believe, is Spruce Green new? Spruce Green is beautiful as well. So those are my favorite colors from this new line. Like, I'll probably be buying some of those open stock later on as things get low, because those are the colors that I'm not going to have duplicates of and that I'm going to be going through a lot of. Especially that forest green. As I mentioned, I think I've already had to buy that a couple times open stock from the Lightfast line because I use it up so much in the Lightfast line. I apologize, you might hear some squeaking in the background. My cat is playing with his toy, which incidentally is a little cardinal bird toy, which is kind of fitting because I am drawing a cardinal nest right now. So getting back to the actual artwork, I had a blast with this. This is not a huge artwork. It's a 6x8. I am working on Canson Me Tints paper. I am using the smooth side. I believe this is their champagne color or maize. I think it's champagne. It's a nice kind of creamy light yellow colored paper. And I thought that that would bring some nice warmth to this piece. I love using a tinted paper with these pencils. They work fantastic on a tinted paper, and it just helps unify everything. Although things are pretty unified with this color palette to begin with, because again, it's kind of a landscape themed set. And so that really helps bring unity to a piece of artwork. You'll also see me bring in what looks like a marker, and that's actually a colorless blending marker by Prismacolor. I'm using that to blend out my pencil strokes. It works really well. Really convenient. I happen to have it next to the desk, and that's what I reached for this time. And then you will see that I have some really interesting textures in the nest already. And for that effect, I actually used like a wooden stylus pen. It's like an embossing pen. A lot of people use it for sculpture. And I used the metal part on the end to indent my paper so that when I came over it with my colored pencil, the indents would stay there. And that's how I got a lot of the detail in the nest. If there's any that I want to cover up, I just use a really sharp pencil to get into the groove again. But this helped me kind of see the texture of the nest and figure out how I wanted to create all those individual twigs. And I was really conscious about the shapes that I did. They were spiraling out. I wanted it to look woven. They're kind of spiraling out from the center, circular, and crisscrossing. So I paid really close attention to my reference photo to see the direction that all these little individual pieces of straw and twigs are going within the nest so that I could create form and have it feel a little bit more on the realistic side. This would have taken forever had I had to actually like physically draw out each twig with my pencil. And so this helped speed things up a little bit. And I really love the effect that it created, because had I done it the other way, man, I wouldn't be even posting this today. And let me tell you, this video took a lot to get out. I ran into technical difficulties. I ended up coming down sick while I was working on this, so I had to take a break from drawing. I wasn't able to do my voiceover when I wanted to. Then the technical difficulties made it so I had to switch video editing programs, so I apologize. My voice might sound hoarse. This voiceover might sound different because there's pre-recorded audio that was edited in a different video editing thing. It was a whole ordeal. But this is my first review of the year. And as you know, I'm not doing a ton this year because I'm on a low buy, but this was pre-planned. And so I thought this was fitting to be my first review of the year because this is a long-awaited launch. And I've been waiting for these pencils for a very long time. So my apologies that this is out later than I wanted it to. But you know, I had already waited a decade for the pencils, for this pencil line to be expanded. I waited months for my set to ship. And of course, why wouldn't the video editing process also cause me all kinds of issues? But I have to say, I am really happy with the way this piece came out. And overall, I am really, really happy with these pencils. I am so excited that they finally listened to everybody and expanded this line. I think there's a lot of beautiful colors in it. I'm excited about, as I mentioned before, I do think if you don't really have a ton of money to invest in the full line, definitely go open stock for those really special colors that you've been waiting for. But overall, I'm in love with these pencils. I'm just as in love with them as I've always been. And I'm really excited to finally have my hands on the expanded line. So I had a great time with this. I love how the piece came out. I'm excited to use these colors in the future. This piece is available as prints on my website. I'll link that in the description below. My husband claimed the original though, so we're keeping that. Have you tried any of the new colors yet? If so, let us know what your favorites are in the comments below. All right, so that's a wrap. Let me know, what do you think of these pencils? Have you tried them yet? Do you plan on getting the full set? I'm pretty excited about it. I'm happy they finally expanded, and I'm glad that I was able to add them to my collection, even with the couple bumps in the road with some things not being as light fast and some of the colors being similar, but overall, I'm pretty happy with them, and you'll definitely see me using these colors in future artwork. I will see you next time. You have a fantastic day. Bye.